And when you exhale, really completely release and let go that which does not belong to you. And then another breath, breathing in. And then a beautiful exhale out of the mouth, my friends. No worries, no fear, no death here. And then another breath in, really breathing in. And then a nice, beautiful exhale. It is surely and truly in the confines of our minds and our hearts and our bodies and our souls that we are being called, that we are being invited into a place of grief, into a place of grief that is holding a love that seeks to break through us, break free from us. What is all of this talk of grief? I keep bringing it up. I keep harping on it. And if you recall, if you were here last time, I spoke about grief in a different way. Often when we think of grief, we associate that with a physical death that has transpired. And that there is something now or someone now that we need to grieve because they are no longer where we can see them. They are not in this time and space with us. That is often what we associate grief with, isn't it? But grief comes in so many different forms, so many different ways. There is the grief of moving. There is the grief of a job change. There is the grief of a relationship ending or a divorce. There is a grief, maybe changing religions, maybe leaving one set of belief system and moving into another. There are so many different types or kinds of grief. As there is a siren going by, blessings. But there is this particular grief, my friends. Please feel this again. I must bring this back up. There is a grief of the way that we are not living in this world, a grief in the way that we are not being. So think right now, like pull the camera back in your life and think about your daily interactions. And maybe it's interpersonal, I don't know. Maybe it's just in community. And I hope, and I venture to say that there are some interactions you can piecemeal through your day and you would probably feel very uplifted. I hope, like I said, I pray this for you. And there is also those places of sink. And what I mean by sink is that there's these pockets, these certain places that just sort of go downwards into an energy that is maybe despair, or that is not kind, or that is cruelty, that there may be even a certain form of violence, recognizing that violence is beyond the physical. And these are daily things that all of us are met with. Hell, we could go to the market and we can see different guns and ammo magazines at a certain eye level. And taking that in day after day, that kind of violence, I believe this is the painstaking grief that it does something. It wears on our souls. It degrades us. It chips away at us. And for those of us that are even semi-aware, that are even halfway conscious, we know that this is not how it is supposed to be. And what are we supposed to do with that day in and day out? And then you add 230 plus mass shootings. You add that. And if you believe that we are all even remotely connected in this thing called life, this journey, that is going to do something to us. Whether you believe in the soul concept or not, it is going to do something to our bodies. It is going to wear heavily on us. See, I can't let go of this. I can't let go of this grief. And let me be totally clear, and just in case it's not, let's go backwards in time. Let's do it that way. Let's go at from that angle. I pray that all of us knew some kind of safekeeping, some kind of peace, some kind of joy, some kind of love at some point, probably very, very long ago. And where that prayerfully was more consistent. And so in that consistency, there was a certain rhythm and a flow. And maybe you have to go back to being really, really little, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years old. But see, it's the life experiences that begin to happen, isn't it? It's all of the societal muck and again, violence and oppression, and all of the cultural pieces and all of the environmental stuff, all of these things combined then with whatever is happening in your family system. And if you believe in past lives, then you've got that coming down too. There is so many different things that begin to imagine right now, almost like bricks or blocks, and they just keep coming. They just keep coming. They just keep coming. Where your heart begins to sort of, without knowing it, it starts to close up because we're afraid. Because we're afraid. And because to live in a place of openness connotes a vulnerability. And to be vulnerable means to keep on getting hurt or blasted by the bricks. And so who needs that? I want to speak to the places within all of us right now, or the place within all of us that knows that there is this way of being, this way of love that exists, that must exist, and that we must, even if we don't, here's the thing, even if we don't believe it exists, it doesn't matter because we will cling to it. We will grab on and hang on to it, and we'll work for it. We will work for it because we have to. And not for our own self-help, like self-love crap. And believe me, I'm not dismissing that work. It's part of it. And it leads us to springboarding into the world to create that collective liberation, that freedom, that love. So by putting our finger, or even maybe, I don't know, pointing is not such a good thing, is it? But by putting our finger on this, or maybe even coming back into our hearts right now. And recognizing, look, we have choice here. We're wise people here. You all have been on your journeys. And to remember that it's not, we don't have to get hurt. And that to grieve is to love. That when we grieve and when we name that we are not living in a proper, in a beautiful, in a harmony, in an equalized compassion, to name that, okay, that is not happening, we can grieve that. In fact, we must grieve that. We must name it and be real about it. It is the naming of this soul sickness or this grief that begins to further ignite our souls and bring us home to a heart opening, a heart breaking love. Oh boy, it's true. It's true. But grief is scary. Grief is scary because it feels like it's never going to end. And when we're talking about this kind of grief, this grief that is almost like we can't always center this, that we're not living in accordance with spirit, in this path of love, in this way of love. I mean, if we were to live like that all the time, it would become overwhelming to our systems. So we have to sort of necessarily, we have to keep going. We have to keep surviving. We have to keep going. What I'm proposing this night, and that I started proposing however many weeks back, was that we got to feel. We have to feel. And in that feeling process, to know once again that nothing is going to happen to you. This sounds maybe really obvious. However, that's how I think afraid we are of the rumbles and the earthquakes of our feelings and our pains and our hurts and our sadnesses. When we allow this grief, we love. And when we love, we grieve. There are so many books. There are so many teachers trying to get us to heal and remember what is real. And I didn't mean to rhyme there, by the way, but truly trying to get us to heal and open up our hearts. Hell, people go to therapy. They want to heal. They want to have a better life. They want to feel. They want to have heart-centered connections. So coming in this way, my friends, my dear ones, my beloveds, coming in this way into your heart, intentionally, consciously, to be with whatever is there. If there is that pain that I think many of us feel, because we know we're not experiencing a consistent harmony and balance and love. By coming into that place and sitting there as though we are in the cave together, our hearts begin to awaken in such a way it's almost as though our hearts begin to feel seen again and heard. My prayer for us, because I feel like this is enough tonight. My prayer for us is that we recognize that we have choice to go as far into grief as we can. That no one and no thing is going to take you on a tsunami trip beyond what you can handle. And so that you, if you believe in a Godhead, maybe not, can say yes to this choice of consciously taking pause and sitting and being in whatever grief or pain or sadness, as I said, is there. And from this place of consciousness, to be open and aware of what your heart wants to do. We have to believe that our hearts want to be open and pliable and not closed and brittle. We have to believe that our hearts are ready for that, and that our hearts want to see people and hear people and love people in the way that they want to be seen and heard and loved. We have to believe that our hearts are so badass and strong that we can bring about sophisticated transformation in such a time as this. We have to believe this. We have to. When we grieve, we love. When we grieve, we will love. And when we love, we will grieve. This is my prayer for each of you this Sunday. Please take good care of yourself and chart how you feel in the coming days. Check in with yourself and see what love is there for you. And so it is.